Have you ever noticed how your energy shifts after spending time with certain people? What if the people around you are the biggest factor in your peace, growth, or struggle? Today, we're going to be talking about community and the circle you keep around you. I'm Michael, and this is Justin, and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast, where we focus on philosophical, spiritual, and psychological concepts to help make your life more manageable and understandable.
Spicing up the intro there.
I know. I don't know why it never occurred to me until just now, but I'm like, you know what? Let's spritz that in there. Hell yeah. So we bring up community a lot on this podcast. Community is, in my opinion, one of the most essential parts of the lives we live, because community is what defines us in the end. There's a quote I heard a long time ago, and it's stuck with me ever since, and that's, you are who you spend your time with. And there's so much truth to that. I have seen it within my own life and within others.
Yeah.
And the quality of people in your life is important. It doesn't mean they have to have all the same values. It doesn't mean they have to have all the same beliefs or be in the same place in life.
Yeah.
But you want people who are going to help raise you up and help you through struggle, who are going to support you as you grow and as you evolve, but also can tell you some hard truth when you need to hear it.
Yeah.
Or just be a shoulder to cry on.
People who show up for you.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people you want, who aren't envious of you because you're doing something that they didn't have the courage to do, or who look down on you behind your back because, you might be a little different. Those are the kind of people. You are who you hang out with. It's just a fact of life. Right? I mean, just simply put, that's the show. Thanks, guys. Thanks for, you are who you hang out with eventually, unless you employ some of these strategies and stuff we're going to talk about today. We're going to teach you how to, as we always say, erect those boundaries for everyone to protect yourself from becoming maybe not the best or becoming the worst version of yourself. So, yeah.
Well, another thing I want to point out here is if you're someone who doesn't really spend time with people, the company you keep is yourself. And often that can be worse company than a lot of other people, because you get that inner critic who starts telling you all these horrible things, negative things about yourself and others. And man, that can be some of the most dangerous company to keep if you don't have anyone to help to talk about this stuff, to mirror if your thoughts are accurate, if your beliefs are accurate. It's one of the most important things I've found in healthy relationships is that I can bring things up. And even if they disagree with me, it gives me a new perspective to chew on my thoughts. It gives me a new perspective to look at these things my mind is playing with, so that it can filter out and help me come to a more wise conclusion.
Right. If you're seeking wisdom and if you have courage.
Yeah.
Those are very important in that game. Because really, it's tough to let go of the things we cling to, and the things that, because a lot of them come from some very deep-seated places, like our cultures and our upbringing and our family units and all this stuff. So it takes a lot of courage to let someone chip away at that and show us what's underneath. So,
right.
That's why it's important to have good people in your corner. And, at the end of the day, people come and go out of your life, and if you look at it as something that must happen so that you can grow, but also so they can grow, or they were there for a season just to, do what we're talking about, chip away that crusty armor you got on you.
Yeah. Well, it's like, one thing I've learned is some of the best relationships I have are with people that were in my life for a period of time. We went our separate ways for a number of years, and we reconnected. And a lot of these people that I have these strong connections with were people that kind of wound up on the same path, their own trajectory, their own version of it.
Yeah.
But it's created some of the best dialogues I've had. I have one buddy I was meeting every week after 8 years of not talking, because he was in the healing scene as I was getting into it. And it was great to have that feedback in that conversation, that mirroring, especially when you're rediscovering or discovering new beliefs, new understandings, and having someone to bounce that off of. I had you, which was great, because I felt like, I always put it, I was a kid in a candy shop. I was completely new to the world. I had fresh eyes. I was seeing
Mm,
everything, and I had just finally discarded all these rigid beliefs I had.
yeah.
And I was willing to just learn, observe, and take in what I could.
Yeah. Respond to, not react to.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean I believed everything I heard from one person or another. I loved how you would phrase it when you would feed me the axioms every day and I'd have to sit with them. And
Mm,
it's like, chew on it, decide if it's good, spit it out if you don't like it, let's have a discussion if you don't.
right,
And it was
right,
great because there were a few times where it's like, I don't know how I feel about this.
right.
But then we would have a really deep conversation about it and really get into the meat and potatoes of it. And it led to some of the best aha moments I had.
Well, that's how, and that's really how we should approach any kind of information um, that is
Yeah.
new to us, especially if it makes us kind of leery at first because it may be against some things that we're holding on to. But it does take, again, it takes courage to do that, and it takes grace for
Yeah.
ourselves and for the person or the book or the video or whatever we're watching or where we're getting our information from
Yeah.
to do that. But at the end of that, to accept isn't to agree. You don't have to agree with everything I teach. And in fact, I'd be kind of weird if you did agree with everything I said as it's written, word for word.
Yeah.
There's always room for changing that vibration of a thing to kind of help us understand it better.
Yeah. Well, it's one of your favorite words, right? Discernment.
Discernment,
It's
yeah.
being able to take it in. I mean, the way I look at it as we cultivate these understandings, a lot of people in the spiritual community, is we all have these trees of knowledge and wisdom we've gained, but no tree is similar because we have all these different sources and
Mhm.
things that tie into our understanding. And even being your student and following your teachings, my tree will look vastly different than your tree
Sure.
does.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes I'll throw something weird in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll throw something that is counterintuitive to an axiom just to see how you'll respond to it. So, because that it throws you off, it throws you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you have to kind of go, wait a minute, what the hell? And did he really mean to say that? Did he really is this for real? Is he being sarcastic? Sometimes I am. Can be a very sarcastic person, but sometimes I do that because I want you to never get comfortable with, growing.
Complacency. Yeah. Well, it's like it takes me back to there's a story of a Zen master who sat down with his student and he said, If you say anything, I will hit you with the stick.
Mm,
If you say nothing, I will hit you with the stick." And so the student's there getting hit, getting upset, being like, "What are you doing? Getting hit again." And all he was looking for was the kid to take the stick and break it.
yeah, break the stick. That's
Yeah.
right.
Thinking outside of the box, not conforming too much to the ideology, but being a free thinker,
Yeah, yeah.
which is vital.
It is vital. It is vital. We should always respect the roots. We should always respect. I did a video many years ago, and you could probably still find it on the KOA Publishing YouTube channel. About it was a topic called respecting the master, and there was this big drama in the larger community about these teachers who had left for quite a long time, and they came back back into the scene trying to kind of pick up where they left off. And so there was
Okay.
this really big drama, this really big discussion about, do they deserve respect? And if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'll put a link in the show, the what do we
Show
call
notes.
it? The show notes.
In the show
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we should respect to a degree where things come from, but not mistake that respect for uh, obedience to what they said.
Right.
Especially if they've been gone for a while and they haven't changed. Well, maybe you should kind of look at that with some more discerning eyes, because if they haven't changed in, years and years and years, then there's something they're not doing right.
Right.
If you go back to that old channel that I'm talking about and look at the early videos, and then you look at me now, I've changed for the better. And that's what I want for you. So you can't follow exactly in lockstep, word for word, what I say, and you should never try to teach it the way I teach it, because you can't be me. You can't ever understand the personal struggles that I went through on this path. And that's not saying that I have more struggles. It's just the struggles are personal to me, and I overcame them in a way that only I can. So
Exactly.
again, we talked about this before. I give you the tools, I give you the teachings. You do with those what you will, and use them to tackle your own burdens and reach your own new heights. You
Yeah.
know, it's the most proud moment for a master when their student surpasses them. That's the point, at least
Yeah.
for me. Yeah. So we're talking about communities today. What do you mean by that? This is the show that you put together. What do you mean by communities?
So when it comes to community, it's really the people you spend your time with. We all have different communities. We have family, we have workspaces, but it's all about being around these groups that and being able to select these groups we spend time with. With family and work are a little more difficult.
Hmm.
But community that matters is a community that has shared values, energy. There's the ability to be yourself in these communities and to grow with them.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you're joining us for the community, the Soluna Girls.
Hmm.
We go down there once a month to their events, and it's a community where we all can be vulnerable, talk about our issues, sharing some camaraderie, and be seen, be heard.
Right. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. They're cool with it.
Yeah,
You know, you could just go and observe. They're fine with that too. I don't know if they like us calling them Saluna girls, the Saluna ladies. Maybe.
there we go.
We kind of speak fondly of them because we love them very much. They're
Yeah,
really cool. They're really cool.
seriously, though.
And I'm going to my first event with them, with you and your wife. Me and Heather and my daughter are going this Friday, this coming Friday. So
Gonna be a good time.
it should be very fun, very interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. But this kind of brings me into, especially in that kind of community that you brought up with the Saluna. It's this kind of community that we're going to be talking about today is really, think of it more of like an energetic ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
Because if you're not in alignment, then the community's kind of bad. But as people are in alignment energetically, it becomes this living field of influence and intention where people resonate with each other, right? They reflect. And as you said earlier, they can help refine one another. So in
yeah,
its truest form, it's not about numbers or proximity, how close you are, especially nowadays, because we can talk like this to lots of people and talk to each other.
yeah.
It's about but it's about vibration and alignment and energy. And these three things do not need us to be close. You know, these things, they don't pay attention to time or space. Vibration reverberates all throughout the universe. So does alignment. So does energy. So, and in the way of Ashla, we do not define community by different labels or even tradition or proximity as well. We kind of ask ourselves, do these souls seek to walk in the light or walk with the light? Do these people challenge me toward growth? Do they reflect these ideas of integrity and grace and humility?
Yeah.
So, for us, a true community is a mirror of what's inside of us. You said earlier, sometimes we're stuck by ourselves, and it's kind of hard to mirror that unless we do the work. But when we gather with people, it reveals our values and it reveals our boundaries and sometimes our blind spots, right?
Right.
Like, but when we choose the people around us with discernment, it becomes this sacred circle that holds us accountable to our higher selves all the time.
Man, I know growing up, or I should say my early adult years, man, I suffered with addiction pretty bad, and so did everyone I associated with.
Mm,
And there was this unspoken rule of where I'm not going to call you on your crap if you don't call me on my crap.
right.
And there was that energetic resonance because we were all in this same field of we're all messing up, screw it.
Mm,
Let's band together and be degenerates together.
yeah.
And it's like as I've gone through this evolutionary stage, I've lost a couple really close friends because they didn't like the path I was on.
Right.
There was that envy you spoke of.
Yeah.
That disregard for where my values were going. And I think that's one area people get trapped often is like, I still have a lot of those friends, and a lot of them are doing better in life.
Mm,
Some of them are still struggling, but there's that camaraderie that still goes on without judgment,
right.
and in turn, I can help them grow. But we must be mindful of those who keep us in their circle because we make them feel validated with the lives they lead, and those who genuinely love us and want us to prosper.
Right. It's important to remember that community is not about agreement. It's about alignment, right?
Yeah.
And remember, not all crowds are community.
Yeah.
We can't just judge, large groups of people as being a community, because oftentimes they're not.
Yeah. Well, it's like people who just tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
It's easy to get trapped in those types of groups. And it's validating, but at the same time, it's not the kind of validation you want. You want someone who can say, hey, I'm worried about you in this area. Hey, I'm noticing this. And it's always with love and without judgment. You got to be careful at the other side of that, where you do have the people who just try to make you feel small so they can feel a little better about themselves.
Right. And look, it doesn't matter about want. It's what you need. Just remember that's what this path is about. It's about doing the things that we need, doing the things that are best for us or better for us, because
that honor ourselves in our life path.
Right. Because it's too easy to get comfortable and want something, but that's not what discipline is. Sometimes we have to, go the path that's going to be a little harder, because that's what's best for us, or that's what we need versus what we want. So, I only keep people around me close who are interested in my needs, what's best for me as well as best for them, not just what I want. I don't have time for that, because we always do that to ourselves anyway. I don't need any help from the outside doing that. It's already hard enough to hold ourselves to that standard and to that discipline.
Yeah. Well, I think many people, part of the big isolation epidemic that's happening, loneliness is becoming more and more an issue with society. The Surgeon General just released a whole announcement about how loneliness and isolation is becoming one of the major mental health crises in the world today. And I think a lot of it is people are afraid to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there, to start cultivating these kind of relationships. And I think many people get stuck where they're at this low energetic level and they struggle meeting people who are in a little bit of a higher energetic level so they can start working their way up. And they get stuck in abusive relationships and toxic friendships. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to make friends with people who are better than you. Yeah. And I don't mean that in any negative connotation. It's like, for instance, getting into spirituality and philosophy. If I weren't able to humble myself when I came to become an apprentice, then I wouldn't have learned anything. I would have been on my high horse. I mean, we talked about before when we first met, I wasn't ready for training at that time because I thought I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I think many people struggle with, they want to have it all figured out, so they assimilate this cookie cutter idea of how the world works. Anything that pushes on that is a threat, because they don't want their worldview being distorted any more than they have already done themselves.
Right. No, well, they spent a lot of time building that prison for themselves, didn't they?
Yeah. Put
a lot of hard work into that.
Yep.
And there's something that I've noticed, and maybe it's always been like this, I just wasn't aware of it, but it seems like to me that the old the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I'm noticing that people nowadays, when we're talking about communities, family is one of those, but I see people really building these soul families, if you will, these chosen families, and putting more emphasis on those than their blood family. And I think that's why do you think that is? If you think that's true, why do you think that is?
Well, I think it ties back into energetic connection. I mean, I think there's a level of, I know, especially like within my family, where there's this, everyone sort of feels they have this place in the family. There's a level of entitlement to relations, and there's not much depth when it comes to those relationships.
Yeah.
A lot of kids struggle opening up to their parents in adult years. A lot of brothers or sisters who, especially older, may have some negative emotions towards younger siblings for the affection they got. There's all these biases, there's all these opinions that have turned hard compared to new relationships that none of that has been cultivated. You take me as I am today, because a lot of time people get stuck on who people were yesterday.
I think it shows that people are becoming more discerning and more aware, perhaps naturally, and they're seeing that their authenticity is more important than some agreements they made before they were born, or agreements they made when they weren't really wise enough to make
Yeah.
those agreements.
No, I've never thought about it through that lens, but I do think there's a lot of truth to that.
I was
I know
very
it's something I've always sort of noticed, especially like my brothers are 20 years older than me, and I've always looked at they're more like uncles considering the age gap there.
Mhm.
But it's like I was always so close with my nephews and my
Mm,
group of friends. They were like brothers to me more than anyone
right.
because that's who I spent my time with. Those were the ones I shared in my struggles, shared in my victories, all these different things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is a good topic today, because for a long time, you've heard the term black sheep, of course. Everybody
Yeah.
has. So, I would consider myself the black sheep, and it was for a very long time in my life. I was very young when I just decided, you know, that blood doesn't necessarily mean that you get my undying loyalty. And I'm sure there'll be comments out there about, oh my God, how could you say that? And you're going against culture and you're going against all this stuff. I'm just I'm just calling it like I see it.
Yeah.
That's just what I did. I don't have any expectations on anyone in my life,
Yeah.
whether that be blood or water, doesn't matter, because they need to have the space to be authentic. And if their authentic person can't coexist with me, no hard feelings, none. I don't hate you for that. In fact, I respect your courage if you can get to the point to say that. um I don't have expectations on my children. All of my children are grown. I'm done raising them. Now I'm just in a new phase where I just watch over them, and you know be more of a friend, really, than be more of a confidant, maybe more of a mentor to them, than actually raising them and
Right.
feeding them and sheltering them and all this stuff. So, but they don't have to like me as a friend. If they don't want to hang out with me, I don't take it personal, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well, I think what you're saying is right on point when it comes to people because I think that's really where a lot of family struggles come in, and is there's
Yeah.
expectations over true
Right.
relationships. And I
Yes.
think this goes with even friendships. I'm with you on that. That's again one of my superpowers I feel I've always had is it's like I let people show me where they're at in my life. And if they're
Right.
not a part of my life, I'm not going to be upset about it, but I also
Right.
am not going to put in that much more effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I will
Yeah.
meet you where you meet me.
I meet exactly right. Meet them where they're at, and if those two things can't align, that's okay, because we
Yeah.
all have paths to go on, and maybe in 5 or 10 years later, those paths come back together. Awesome.
Yeah.
I can meet people wherever they are. If I left off, I got lots of friends and even family members that, I left them at this point in the journey and off I went. Now, I don't know where their path's going, right? Could go
Yeah.
up, down, left, right. I don't know, because I'm walking my path. And when we've met back up, I meet them where they are. Now, sometimes they won't meet you where you are. They'll meet you where you were, which creates a whole
Yeah.
different problem too, which is why I say I don't have any expectations or conditions on the people in my life besides, don't hurt me type stuff, because I'll hurt you back maybe. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um, if you separate away from me for any length of time, it could be 6 months, a year, whatever, I'm not going to be the same person that you remember back here. I'm going to be a completely different person. So that's something else to remember when we reconnect with people after we've separated from them. Try to meet them where they are now. If not much has changed, well, then so be it. But give them the chance to be a different person, because
Yeah.
really, if you're going to judge their place in your life, you should see them where they're at the moment, not where they were 10 years ago.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. Again, it's like we have a relationship with two people every time we have a relationship with anybody, and that's who they are and who they are in our heads. And the
Hmm.
more distortion there is there, the less true, authentic connections actually happening.
Yeah. And then a lot of fights happen, and because a lot of times, and I know we got to move on here, but I know because a lot of times people hold on to that resentment. Oftentimes these splits happen because something happened, right? Something bad happened, or there was a big fight or whatever, and you may have let it go and moved on, and you're ready to reconnect, but they might have not moved on. They might have been dragging that crap along with them, and you're going to have to face it all over again. And that's when you really say, listen, I'm a different person. That stuff's in the past. If we can't move on together, then we're just going to have to go our separate ways again.
Yep.
Along this path, that's why we always say that there's quite a bit of heartbreak when you walk a path like this, because those things happen and you lose people. People fall away from you for whatever reason. There's 1,000 of them. But you have to be ready to accept that. And sometimes that comes with a broken heart.
Oh, well said. So when it comes to who you spend your time with, why is it so important?
Because it's not a neutral decision, right? This is a very important, and even you can even call it a sacred decision. Your energy is precious. Your time on this earth is finite, right?
Yeah.
And the people who you allow close to your heart will either amplify your light or your joy or your abundance, or they will suck it from you. Like they'll just drain the life out of you. And it's important to remember that energy does not lie. Trust it. Why? Another reason why it matters is because we become the reflections of the people we spend most time with. Like we said, you are who you hang out with. And not just in your behaviors, but in your emotions and your thoughts and your actual energetic vibrations.
Yeah.
And you won't even realize it, really.
Well, it's like you can tell. I love how you brought up the energies, because there are some people you spend time with, you spend 30 minutes with, and you feel just exhausted after. But there's some people in your life where you spend time with them, you can spend days with them, and you leave that meeting more energized than ever.
Right.
And that's really one of the best ways you can tell if someone's good for you or not.
Yeah.
Is, do you go into that meeting and feel revitalized afterwards, or do you feel drained? Do you feel like you had to put on a show just to get through it, or smile and nod your whole way through that conversation?
Yeah, well, because again, we absorb all the stuff around them.
Yep.
Their tones, their beliefs, sometimes their habits. We even adopt their perspective if we are fond enough of them, right? And this is kind of that subtle art of energetic exchange, like you just talked about. And it happens with or without your consent. The only way this isn't the only way, without getting into all kinds of energy shields and energy projections and stuff like that. But really, the best way for you to choose is just to abstain from that person if that's what they do to you.
Yeah. Energy vampires, right?
Yeah, just stay away from them. And that's why the question is not simply, do I like this person? The real question is, like you said, how do I feel after I've been with them? Right?
Yeah.
Do they uplift or deplete you? Do they reflect truth, or do they feed you this bull crap? Do they support your path or your healing journey? Or do they just get in there and rip those wounds wide open, especially if they're the kind of people like I was talking about a little while ago, where we reconnect and we left on bad terms? When we meet again, are they grateful for your healing and their own healing, or are they just there to rip those wounds back open?
Right. These are important questions you got to ask yourself with people, because, man, there's nothing more exhausting than putting your energy somewhere where it's not going to be reciprocated. And I don't mean in the sense of I give you a quarter, you give me a quarter. I mean in the sense of you bring your energy there and it's not being matched. And it doesn't mean people don't have off days, but you know who these people are. That one person who nags about everything, or always has a problem, whose life is always in the chutes for some reason or another.
Right. Well, and that's why it's important for us to be able to recognize and discern the difference between communities that are good for our growth, or those that just are that old familiar wound. Not every relationship, that even the really long-standing ones, are rooted in health or rooted in love or rooted in light. Sometimes these people that we cling to the most, they're the ones who echo our earliest damage, right?
Right.
And look, and just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's good. Familiar isn't always good. So in the way of Ashla, we choose our community members, and not as an order, but I'm talking about our coven, right? The blood of the covenant, right? Our chosen family. And family is one of our agreements. Is it not, Michael?
Yeah.
And it's important because this topic today is nailing on this perfectly, because in our path, we choose people by their resonance, not by any kind of obligation. because we are called to walk in alignment. And that includes who we allow into our inner sanctum, into that place where our soul sits.
Yeah.
Now, not all relationships that challenge us are bad, right? Because some challenges are healthy. They
Yes.
push us towards growth. But others try to keep us small and asking us to shrink in order to be accepted.
Yeah.
So discernment's not judgment. Discernment is clarity.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that sometimes relationships will rub you the wrong way sometimes, or you'll disapprove of what someone does. Like, there are too many long-term friendships that are ending over simple conflicts because people don't want to deal with the hard conversations.
Right.
A true relationship, friendship can handle that rupture within the relationship and then work its way back together.
Right.
Yeah, something may need to change. Like, I know I have someone I care deeply about who got lost into some pretty hard addiction, and I love this person to death, but there's a level of reparation within his own life that needs to happen before I can welcome him back in.
Yeah.
But we can't throw away relationships because of that one thing that happened. We got to be able to work through them. Now, some things are lines that, if crossed, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to be able to handle disagreements and what am I looking for here? The ability to have opposing opinions without it ending friendships and relationships.
Right.
Because that's what leads to isolation the most, is when we're too afraid of being around people who see the world differently than us. In fact, we should welcome those kind of people because it allows us to have those opposite perspectives that can create some of the most meaningful conversations and cultivate some of the greatest wisdom.
And, while as you're saying that, I'm thinking that perhaps there's someone in my life that I should follow your advice, and maybe we should bring them on and have this conversation.
I think I know who you're talking about.
You know exactly what you're talking about. I think it'd be good for all of us. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Even as we're talking, we're contemplating. We're always looking in the mirror to see where we could be better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of this podcast. Yes, we do it because we want to help shed this wisdom to people. We want to help people grow and to become the best versions of themselves. But these kind of discussions are exactly what helps us grow as well. Mm-hmm. There's not many episodes where I don't leave the conversation with some food for thought at the end.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every single time, because the student is the best teacher.
Yeah, but I almost said it earlier, but I fought it.
Yeah. They know.
We're going to need to start that axiom draw. It's going to be the best way to start saving money. It's just every time we quote an axiom, we got to put $1 away into savings.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Get a clicker.
Keeping track. So what are some signs that you may not be aligned with the people in your circle?
It's something we bring up a lot, but you got to look at people's actions and not their words. People are really good at putting on faces, putting on a show. Everyone wants connection to a degree. But ask yourself, as you get to know people intimately, you spend a good amount of time with them, do their values align with yours? Are they bringing to this friendship, this relationship, the same type of energy that you have? And not just physical, but it's like, some people can be mooches. Some people can be draining and only want to hear their own voice in a conversation. Right. Look for people where you're able to express yourself, where you can be authentic. Look for the signs where you feel yourself trying to put on your own mask to avoid conflict or controversy.
I want you to think about your circle, the people in it. I want you to imagine them as being a flame. Now, here's where you tell the difference. Is that flame warming you or is it burning you? That's how you know you're not in alignment.
I like that. I'm going to try that as a meditation.
There you go. But really, when you're aligned, you feel energized, you feel encouraged, empowered, and really supported in becoming your highest possible self. Growth. But when it's misaligned, you start to dim, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you do it without even knowing why. So, like you said, you feel drained, or there's a lot of judgment after spending time. And that judgment didn't just stop with them actually judging you, but you're now in this cycle of rumination at home.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it, right? So, instead of feeling kind of seen and heard and supported, you leave interactions feeling really heavy, a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Start judging yourself.
emotionally.
Start taking things too personally. Yeah.
Right. And that judgment doesn't even need to be direct, like, hey, you're a dummy, whatever.
Right.
It often hides behind this kind of, uh, I'll just say like this subtle disapproval or these backhanded comments, right?
Yeah.
But your nervous system feels it,
You know, that's how
even
you
when
can always tell. Your nervous
your
system,
mind wants to make excuses for it, right?
you know, now your nervous system holds the key. Your nervous system will always let you know. Those
Right.
gut feelings you have on people, do not shut
Mhm.
them out.
Another sign that you're not in alignment is that you purposely, consciously dim your light or suppress your truth in order to keep the peace. So, peace that requires your silence is not peace. Or if it requires you to subvert your truth, that's not peace. That is suppression. And if you find yourself minimizing your joy and shrinking your success or avoiding vulnerability so others feel more comfortable, that's not connection. You're actually abandoning yourself.
Well, and it's like, don't judge yourself, but as you're listening to this, ask yourself, is there certain mannerisms or masks I wear even amongst my closest friends? I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, I had a close group of friends. I felt energized after hanging out, but I realized they never knew me, or at least all of me. There was so often I was repressing all of my struggles. I was trying to always come off as top dog or the person who had it all together.
Mm.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. I was
Right.
minimizing myself. I was not being authentic in these friendships. And that's not true connection. That's not genuine connection. Especially when you start looking at the benefits and the things that your inner circle should provide you, which is helping uplift you and helping you become more.
And here's one I know that you will know this firsthand. We've talked about it a lot. I think a lot of you out here will understand this. You're afraid to outgrow the people that are in your circle.
Oh my God, yeah.
Growth is natural. It is one of our purposes on this planet, in this life. In each lifetime, you have a chance to grow, right? But if we get attached to people and we fear that we're going to leave them behind, so we start to sabotage our own growth, our own evolution.
Yeah.
And we try
Becomes
to
one of
stay
the
small.
excuses. I know for me, that was one of my big things, especially with addiction. It became one of the excuses I used to keep me stuck in the same patterns that were completely self destructive.
Yeah. Well, we stay small so that we can maintain that connection, and we avoid growth so that we're not too different, and we'll cling to the past, out of guilt. But it dishonors both you and your path and theirs.
Yeah.
Let them rise if they choose, but don't delay yours. And one other one I had, and you hit on this a little bit ago. You notice yourself falling back into old patterns around certain people because these relationships, these past relationships, they pull you back and they try to pull you back into that outdated version of yourself.
Yep. And we are creatures of habit. It is easy to do. You can think you're foolproof, but man, it's
Yeah,
a slippery slope once you start walking it.
it is. It is. It's tough to maintain sometimes, but you can do it.
So we've been talking a lot about what to look for, how to start judging people in your circle, how to start honing your circle. What are the
Hmm.
benefits when you get into a circle that is completely aligned with you, when you are in the type of community we are talking about cultivating?
The benefits of.
Yes, or what is it that having an aligned community
Mm.
brings to your life?
So if you haven't been doing that, once you start doing that, there is a profound shift that happens, and it's almost instantaneous when you see it. When people are aligning together, you get people that mirror your growth. They don't care about your past. They mirror your growth. So you're growing together. My wife and I been together for a long time, and our growth is mirrored, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't care about what happened in the past. We don't even care about what happens in our past because that's not us anymore. Those people have died and been reborn again and again and again and again and again. Those old endings became new beginnings each time. So this kind of circle sees you not just as you were, but who you're becoming. And they reflect your light back to you.
They promote
Especially
you in making choices towards it.
especially, Michael, when you stumble and fall, especially when you forget that you are this being of light, and they won't hold you hostage to your old mistakes or to even your stumbles or falls. They cheer you on for your for your evolution, and they walk beside you as you rise.
I had a friend I hung out with on the 4th of July, and I went on the deck with him. He went to go have a cigarette, and he's just like, "You all right with this? Like, I know you're trying to quit. I don't want to be a bad influence on you." It's like, "Hey, man, I appreciate that. Like, nah, you're good, but thanks for looking out."
What a good dude, man.
Yeah.
Another thing that is happens is you start being seen and held with compassion. And this accelerates your growth and your healing, right? Because it really doesn't happen great. I'm not ever going to say you can't heal on your own in isolation. I wouldn't advise it. And I won't say that you can't do it because I don't know, because I didn't do it that way. All right?
Well, they talk about when people go on the healing journey, how there's this hermit phase everyone goes through
Right.
to a degree, and I do believe that. But there comes a line where that hermit mode becomes a coping mechanism over something productive in your life.
Right.
There's an axiom for that.
There is. There is. You know, when we have those moments where we need to be alone and we have solitude, we really need to do it only when it accelerates our growing, when it's good for us to do so, because it's not always good for you to do so. There is another old show that I did, or it's really like a 15-minute video on the publishing YouTube where we talk about that. It talks about the path. Let's see, the path and the community, are they the same thing? Because sometimes the path moves us away from our community, and sometimes it brings us back. But don't spend too much time out in the weeds, right?
Yeah.
Because, and here's why: because we need witnesses to our growth. We need witnesses to our healing.
Yes.
We need someone to say, "Man, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of how far you've come." Someone who holds that space for us without judgment, who helps us dissolve our shame and accelerates that transformation. So being seen is important in this journey. And, it doesn't matter if you need to heal a lot or a little bit. It's good to have witnesses. It's good to have cheerleaders. It's good to have a support system, especially when you fall, and you will fall.
Yeah.
You will stumble from time to time. Surround yourself with people who will hold you up with compassion. Another one, being around people who speak truth, who hold that space. Also, that compassionate accountability for you. We have to have radical accountability for ourselves, but as helpers of others, we have to hold some compassionate accountability, right?
Yeah.
And challenge each other with love. Real allies don't flatter our egos. They're not yes men. They're not just telling us what we want to hear all the time. As I said earlier, sometimes they got to tell us what we need to hear, because that's what speaks to our soul. Yeah. They're not speaking to our bodily ego. They're speaking to our soul when they do that. They ask those deeper questions. They honor your truth, even when it's raw. And sometimes it is. Sometimes sometimes it feels super hurtful because, oh my God, you love me. How are you talking to me this way? Because they love you. Because they love you. They really, really love you. And when you falter, again, they don't condemn you. They remind you of who you are. You and I have had many, many conversations, hard conversations along this journey, not because he's a bad student, but because these things happen, right?
Yeah.
There was never any condemnation, because I love you. And
Right.
because I need you to remember who the F you are. So this is where truth and love meet. It's where this accountability becomes an act of devotion. I hold you accountable because I can't bear, Michael, I can't bear to see you crack and fragment, right? That's the kind of people you need in your life.
Yeah.
That's what'll happen to you when you have these kind of people around you. You will have people who will hold you up, and they'll challenge you.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's one of the most crucial things that can really accelerate your growth as a human being. To surround yourself with people that see the best in you. And it's not that that's all they see, but they know the person you're trying to become. and they help you in your moments of weakness, in your moments
Yeah.
of struggle, to grow and become more through those moments. Not to judge you,
Right.
but to support you and help you move in the direction you want to go.
Right. I tease you. I tease you only on the show about how you were the self help guru when I first met you, and I tease you a lot on the show, but never once in our time together as teacher and student did I ever go back to that past
No,
and ever use it against you, because you're not that guy.
right.
You're not that guy. Because also, and this ties into the last kind of benefit of this, is that you foster authenticity within the group, and each person can start to shed that old self and become a new self, become a better self, a grown self, because your nervous system feels safe. Your truth
Yeah.
can start to come out because you're not afraid of getting smacked or judged, or you know taken back to a thing you said in the past. Your mask will drop off, your vulnerability will blossom, and growth is the only thing that can come from that.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, right? So, and accountability is not punishment, it's an offering.
Exactly. That is so well said. I love that. I need to TM that. No, I've seen it within my own peer groups as I've been doing this healing journey, as I've been able to talk to them about it. I've watched bit by bit as they've begun opening up about their own issues, their own
Yeah.
struggles.
Good
And
for
it's
them.
like they're now finally starting to call me when they're having like a dilemma, whether it's in dating or in their opinions on their workspace.
Yeah.
And it's like I can hold that space, but also be direct. And it's like, hey, sure you want to do this? Is this a good idea?
Are you
That does
sure?
sound like a red flag.
I mean, I'll use another example before we move on. We're talking about how do you know you're in alignment with people. Michael and I talk about this off the air all the time, but it doesn't matter how we're feeling throughout the day. We could have the crappiest day at work or the crappiest day wherever, and we're run down and we're just beat down. And as soon as it's like 10 minutes till the time for us to meet up and record, bam, gone. Everything's gone, and we're super hyped up and we're energetic and we got all this extra energy.
Got
And,
that
and
second wind.
it's almost like every show, we say this before every show, before we start recording. So that's how you know you're in alignment, So
Not perfectly said though, because it's the truth.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Almost, probably not every show, but almost every show, we'll spend a few minutes talking about how, God, man, I got, this and that, and I had to deal with this person and that person. And then, but then, it's like almost like when we say, okay, I'm ready. If you're ready, yeah, let's go. And we just, the light comes back on again, and we're just like ready to,
It's like a quick
go at
charge
it.
to the batteries.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to go into some of the tools we can utilize in developing community, cultivating community, and refining community. So one thing I really want to practice as I get into my coaching, as I get into building these communities within our space for Ashla, isolation is becoming a pandemic. I brought it up earlier. It's something I've seen for years, and it's something I've tried to figure out how to address. If you are someone who struggles with isolation, I'm going to give you a few key tools that may be uncomfortable at first that can help you start finding your community. So one thing that really benefited me, when I started going into the healing scene and transitioning, I was away from my old friend group. I didn't really have many friends that were in the healing scene. And so I had to sort of start cultivating community elsewhere. So the first thing I recommend is there's apps like Meetup, Eventbrite. Figure out something that you don't have to be passionate about it, but you're interested in. Is it painting? Is it hiking? Is it music festivals or beer tastings? Whatever it is. Find something that at least you're interested in and you know a little bit about. Go to the event. If it's something that happens weekly, you can go and just sort of watch the first time. But as you start going to these events more and more, you can start practicing communication, going up to people, talking to them about the event, talking about your interests around the topic that's at hand. You can start meeting people tomorrow if you just put yourself out there. And that's the hardest part. When I grew up, I had really bad social anxiety. I was told I might have been institutionalized because I could not communicate with people. I mumbled, I was quiet. I was not doing good towards my end of schooldom. And it took my teacher telling me, my special ed teacher telling me that I may have to go somewhere after high school, that I'm like, I need to get my life together. I need to get past this roadblock. And so I would
Mm-hmm.
go to the mall, and I would, again, I mumbled. I was really antisocial in school. So it started where I just asked 10 people, what's the time? After doing that for a couple of
Ooh.
weeks, I got more comfortable. And then it started being asking people about their day. And, sometimes I'd get those jerks like, I don't want to deal with you right now. But I got more and more comfortable with socializing with strangers. And that made me flourish into who I am today, where I love people. I make friends everywhere I go. It's one of the things my wife loves most about me, but it's not something that I always had. They say you're not born with confidence. Confidence, I went with the mentality fake it till you make it, and it worked for me. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really just cultivating the skill and removing that self doubt. That's how you heal trauma, is by putting yourself in the situations where you can re-empower yourself, that you
Yeah.
can change those limiting beliefs or agreements you made with yourself. And so start putting yourself out there into different communities. And one might not be good, go to a different one.
Mm-hmm.
But start feeling it out. If you're really into this healing scene that we talk about a bunch, there are tons of healing groups, sound baths, full moon circles, whatever. But it all starts with action, and action isn't happening a week from now, it happens now.
Yeah.
So get on your phones, download one of those apps, Eventbrite, Meetup, and just find a group, sign up for it right now. And watch as your life begins to change, as you begin to create this community. And yeah, it takes a lot of work, it takes time, and it takes sort of hand selecting as you're meeting people and developing these conversations. But I promise it'll change your life.
Yeah. Well said. I will add nothing to that. Those are great, great tips.
Another important thing you can do is take time now, energetically evaluate your relationships. Justin's exercise. Think of the people in your life that you spend the most time with. You're not
Mm-hmm.
forced to spend the time with, like coworkers, but think about the people in your circle and ask yourself, does this, think of them as a flame, and ask yourself, do I feel warm by this person, or that I'm getting burned by this person? Or even, is this flame freezing cold? Because that's what
Mm-hmm.
I pictured as you were describing that. And really start taking an energetic inventory of the people in your life.
Right. And remember, it's not about judgment, it's about awareness. You can't realign what you haven't actually seen. You don't know what to align to until you know the difference.
Yeah. Another important thing is, you don't have to say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, is this connection nourishing, or is it something that's draining to me? Or vice versa, are you someone who says no to everything?
Right.
You can ask yourself, what is it that's creating this resistance? Is it the person, or is it my discomfort? And
Right.
learn to start saying yes to things, especially if it's something you might enjoy, like a concert or going on a hike or whatever it is.
Right. Be choosy though.
Yeah.
Pause before saying yes to anything,
Yeah.
because you need to be choosy, a little bit choosy, because every time you say yes to something is automatically saying no to something else.
Yep. To everything else.
And you got to be careful, because that could be saying no to your energy, your peace, your purpose. So
No.
before committing to plans or anything really, pause and ask yourself, is this something that's going to drain me unnecessarily or energize me? Am I choosing this out of love or obligation?
Yeah. There we
Obligation.
go.
I don't like being obligated.
Well, I think a lot of us get trapped in those kind of moments of obligation without realizing it until we're there. It's like, why did
Right.
I say yes to this?
Yeah. This one mindful little tiny pause before you say yes can change the course of your relationships. It can change the course of your life, really.
Yeah.
Think back to the biggest yeses you said, or no's, and then kind of think about how your life would have been different if you just said yes or no at a certain thing.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. These are important decisions. It may not seem like it. It may adjust, and you're just being dramatic. No, you should pause before you give up everything for a yes. Really. Especially is look, if nothing else, if you feel obligated, you really got to pause, right?
You know?
I can't imagine anybody likes being obligated to anything, right?
You know?
I prefer choosing over obligation. And You know, I am kind of a drama queen about it. I like to choose. I don't like people volunteering me for things without my consent. I don't like people voluntolding me either.
Yep.
I get a little snippy.
Understandably.
You know, but that's because I have those kind of boundaries now.
Yeah.
No, I'm not obligated to a thing. I'm only obligated to me, protecting my peace, protecting my energy. And you only get it when I give it to you, right? And that sounds kind of, I don't know how that sounds. Take it however you will, but, you know, I'm not going to be obligated to anything. I choose.
Yeah. One of the greatest superpowers we have. Right?
Yeah.
We are the ones in control of our lives, our destiny, and where we invest our time.
We sure as hell should be if we're not.
Do you have any other thoughts when it comes to this topic before we start wrapping up?
Yeah. So, look, in a world where connection is everywhere, here, everywhere, but depth, that actual depth is rare, choosing your inner circle becomes a very important and sacred act because the people around you are not just companions, they are mirrors and amplifiers and energetic collaborators. They will either align with you or challenge it or split you apart away from your authenticity. So they either help you grow or help you keep repeating the same old crap that's not doing you any good. But again, choosing others doesn't mean judging others. It means honoring the truth of where you are and where you're going and where they are and where they're going. So let go of guilt for outgrowing what no longer resonates with you. Let it go. Let go of the fear that says you must shrink to belong because you don't want to belong if that's what you need to do. And let go of the illusion that loyalty means staying stuck, sometimes stuck in quicksand. So be brave enough to choose those who challenge you with love and support your wholeness and see that light in you, even when, I won't even say even when, especially when you've forgotten it yourself.
Speak it, brother.
Speak. Preaching today. I'm out here preaching today.
Preaching. So I
you
think
get me all hyped up, man. You get me all hyped up. See? That's what happens when you're in alignment. You get me all hyped up.
Get that energy up and going.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So I think you also brought today an affirmative prayer.
I did. So let's close our eyes. Divine presence, source of all light and truth, I come to you with an open heart, seeking clarity, courage, and connection. May I be surrounded by those who see me as I truly am, not as I've been or as others wish me to be, but as a soul in constant evolution. Let every relationship in my life be a reflection of love, growth, and authenticity. Let those who walk beside me be those who honor the sacred within me. And let me, in turn, honor the sacred within them. I release with grace all connections that no longer serve my highest path. Not in anger, not in judgment, but in reverence for the role they played. I bless those I must let go of, and I trust the space they leave will be filled by truth-aligned community. May I be a beacon for aligned souls, those who speak with compassion, challenge with integrity, and walk with purpose. May my presence call in those who walk in light, and may I have the wisdom to recognize them. I am not alone. I was never meant to walk this path alone. I open myself now to the sacred circle that awaits for me, and I vow to be just as much a light in their lives as they are in mine. And so it is.
Oh, that was good.
I'll tell you that I really love praying. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I know. We try to be in the practice. We're in bed. We pray and we speak everything as it is instead of what we want. And just give everything and everyone up. Yeah. And just let the gratitude overflow us.
Yeah. We affirm what is, even if it's not quite there.
Yep, exactly.
Because we don't care how it gets there. We're just interested in it being there. We do our part, and we leave the rest to a higher source.
For affirmations today, I attract relationships that support my highest good.
Scratch that.
I deserve to be seen, heard, and valued for who I truly am. I release connections that no longer serve my growth. I nurture the people who nurture my soul. My community is a reflection of my inner peace and strength. For our exercise today, the circle inventory. Take a moment to get honest. With love, not judgment. Who are you allowing closest to you? And what are they feeding in you? List 5 to 7 people you spend the most time with, energy, or thought on. This could be friends, family, coworkers, or even someone you're no longer close to, but still emotionally entangled. Feel the connection. Next to each name, reflect on, how do I feel after being around this person? Energized? Grounded? Drained? Anxious? Do I feel safe being my full self with them? Do they support my growth or keep me tied to the past? Then ask yourself honestly, who in my life reflects the person I am becoming? Who do I feel obligated to, but not aligned with? Where am I shrinking to stay connected? Step 4 is taking loving action. Just pick one small step. Spend more time with someone who uplifts you. Set a boundary with someone who drains you. Seek a space, group, class, event where your authentic self is welcomed. Your circle doesn't just influence your energy, it shapes your identity. Be brave enough to choose connections that reflect who you're becoming, not who you had to be. I got a couple journaling prompts, so if one of these resonate with you, who in my life makes me feel more like myself? Write their name down and then express to yourself why. Who do I shrink around? And why? What's being triggered? What insecurity is ruling me within this connection? And lastly, what kind of support do I actually need right now? Do you need somewhere where you can be vulnerable, express your problems? Do you need someone in your life who can help you be more accountable with your life? Well, thank you for sticking with us to the end of this episode. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucium.
Ad Lucium.